I kind of just wanted to make a cartoon. And it's ended up being way more trouble. Imagine you had a silly little idea that you thought people would enjoy, and they did. In fact, beyond expectation. It became considered a critical darling, immensely massive, being touted as the most viewed indie animation pilot in history. Now suddenly, your silly little idea is one of the biggest cultural phenomena of the decade, garnering hundreds of millions of views, merch pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars, a Netflix deal probably pulling in even more, and even a theatrical release that it itself is breaking records. People dream of this. You've got it all. Then you got a little too much. See, here's the thing. What they don't tell you is that when you create something this big, it stops being yours. And those same people who you thought would like your idea, who ended up falling in love with it, also turn into the reason you end up hating it yourself. I'd like to talk to you about the longest, most consistent relationship I've had in my life. A metal sheet, aka this video's sponsored Displate. I don't know if I'm just some guy to y'all, or you actually know me from the very questionable content I've put up over the years, either as a fake person or a real fake person. If you peek my walls, I've always had these cool metal posters hung up around my room, especially in the streaming days when I said I used to sleep next to 16 school children, but I forgot how bad that sounded. Well, those were Displates, and I still use them to this day. Like, just from the packaging, you can tell you're opening something premium. This is not just a rolled up poster that's just gonna fall off one day. Plus, the print quality is crisp. The surface is sleek, and it just looks damn good. But what really sold me is the mounting. There's no drilling, no tools, and no destroying your wall. You stick a magnet on the wall, and it holds. And if you get bored of the design, just lift it off and swap it with something else. Plus, it's a platform for independent artists, too. Thousands of creators from all over the world selling their original work. And shit, if you want, you can just upload your own work, too, and make a display of it. I'm telling you, I've supported Displate from day one, and they've always been an amazing product, and you should get it too. So if your walls are embarrassingly boring, go to the link below. That's displate.com/CurtRichy, or use my code CurtRichy for 22% off one Displate, 27% off two, or if you're trying to go big, 33% off 3 or more Displates. I'm telling you, that is a steal. You need to take advantage of this. Okay, so once again, check the link in the description or use my code CurtRichy to get 22% off one, 27% off two, or 33% off 3 Displates. Let your wall say something about you. And thank you, Displate, for sponsoring this video. See, on YouTube, my recommended kept shoving a particular thumbnail at me. A small clown girl and some teeth. What the fuck is that? This is when I discovered the amazing digital Circus, a quote surreal psychological comedy about a bunch of cute cartoon characters that hate their lives and want to leave, which is a pretty solid description of your late 20s, so I'm kind of locked in right now. The series follows the adventures of Pomni, the clown from the thumbnail, who is actually a normal woman who unexplainably becomes trapped in a virtual reality with 5 other humans who are also wacky characters, who become subject to the whims of a even wackier AI and their own personal traumas. Maybe slightly a bit more off base, but essentially still your late 20s, you have my attention. Now, I don't know if a lot of y'all are like me, but upon getting the gist of the show, although being into the concept, in October 2023, my reaction was like, I'm good. Because at this point, we've all done this song and dance before. See, around this time period, the market was very saturated with this exact kind of thing. Like, it's all flowers and butterflies on the surface, but then there's some kids murdered or some genocide underneath. But nah, it's Chuck E. Cheese, but we got the dead kids underneath. Steven Universe, super cool, colorful show. Got a genocide underneath. Undertale, quirky skeleton and dog. That one's a twofer. And I'm not saying the stuff in that lane wasn't good. 2 out of 3 of these things I absolutely love. I'll let you guess which ones. But the genre, if you even call it a genre, was starting to get a little full. Now, of course, there were successes and some real gems there, such as some of the ones I named, but there are also a lot of, for lack of a better term, ass. Hello, neighbor. What the fuck was even that? I don't know what's scary about stacking furniture. Poppy's Playtime, which felt like a cash grab. This FNAF with arms. Oh my gosh! And even if there weren't outright flops, some stuff just felt like it took up space. Man of the Adventure, Man in the Ink Machine. I could go on. I feel like there should be like a Wikipedia term for this specific type of thing, but I don't know what it is, so I'm gonna coin it right now as cute thing, dark lore. We're gonna workshop that. So of course, off a very base read off the Amazing Digital Circus's synopsis, it's giving the same. But I don't know if it was the clown girl or the teeth. I decided to watch it anyway. And it was pretty damn good. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not a reviewer by any means, no matter how many pseudo-intelligent words I rambled off in the last 2 minutes, including that one. But the Amazing Digital Circus felt fun. To me, it had moments that made me genuinely chuckle, like not even the air out the nose one either, like I made an audible sound.
These activities may include...
The character designs were fun. The characters were even funner. I like the mean bunny. Like, I don't know. The Amazing Digital Circus to me felt like it was itself first. And then it just also happened to fit in this genre that I just made up in my head. So I look forward to seeing the other episodes. I proceeded to not watch any of the other episodes. Ugh, I wasn't lying. I liked it. It just fell off my radar, all right? There's a million of these types of things a year. It's gonna come and go. It's not like it's gonna become the biggest thing ever. Holy shit! The Amazing Digital Circus pilot hit 1 million views in 3 hours. And over a month's time, it got 100 million views. In fact, as the day I'm sitting here recording this, hold on, let me see. The pilot has 421 million views, which apparently is the current record on YouTube for the most viewed indie animation pilot in YouTube history. Now, I know numbers are kind of just like numbers, they don't hit like that, but to put it into perspective, it got so big, the show ended up getting a Netflix deal. But that's not even the thing. The crazy part is that it reportedly started outperforming original Netflix content for a show that is free on YouTube, was getting more views on Netflix than the Netflix shows. Like, there's a report that said 22% of all of the US 14 to 24 demographic was aware of the show. That's a lot of fucking 14-year-olds. Merch of the show was selling out in seconds. In fact, to the point that people were making bank off of bootleg merch. It got so bad that apparently Glitch Productions, the studio behind Amazing Digital Circus, fought a federal trademark infringement lawsuit in April 2025, seeking up to $2 million per infringement. Like, bro, there were unauthorized live stage shows popping up in Latin America. Like, you see this shit? What is this? This shit was truly a phenomenon. Now, if you've been on the internet as long as I have, you may be able to recognize a particular pattern. When a show like this gets a running audience, it also creates a kind of weird chemical reaction in how that audience acts, in which, because these people love this thing, they begin to harass people associated with it. Like, if you've been around, you've seen examples of it with some of these other fandoms I've mentioned. Undertale had many incidents where fans of the game harassed other people for playing the game wrong. In Steven Universe's storyboard artist named Lauren Zook left Twitter in August 2016 after a fan harassed her over shipping things. FNAF, you could fucking pick one. All right. And unfortunately, the Amazing Digital Circus was not an exception. But the Amazing Digital Circus was really interesting to me because its creator, Gooseworx, was, for at least what I can tell, privy to these types of dynamics and tried to prevent them even before she knew the show was going to take off. Because in June 2023, before the pilot even dropped, Gooseworx had posted, "I'm going to have to ask all of you to sign a waiver stating that you'll be a good fandom and not a horrendously vicious, annoying one. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to make the show bad on purpose." Now, I'd seen all this information post the blow up, so it made me curious. Who was Gooseworx? All I really known her from was her social media presence, which occasionally leaked on my timeline with bangers such as Hogs on Fire, I'll take the most inbred warriors you have. The amazing Digital Circus creator confirms that after episode 9, they're just straight up killing the voice actors and animators. They're murdering them in real life for no reason. I actually stole the idea for Digital Circus from a small woman named Leave Me Be Horrid Creatures. She's no longer with us. And my personal favorite, my body is a factory that turns drawings of cocks into looked at drawings of cocks. I like her. But I wanted to do a deeper look beyond penis tweets. And turns out she's been kind of in this industry for a bit. Her actual start was music, which makes sense considering her In fact, she did soundtracks for SVA students through a connection with Vibi, who, if you did not know, is the creator of another indie animation gem. I'm not even mentally prepared to talk about it in depth. In fact, she did the score for the Has-Been Hotel pilot, which is also probably more proof that she is at least passingly familiar with toxicity. But of course, she also did animation. But the she was pushing out was cartoony but surreal, to say the least. I mean, look, and a lot of her music and animations got her a pretty solid following. But one thing kind of stood above the rest at the time. Because back in 2019, Gooseworx had a little taste of making a show that was bigger than what she expected and an audience with its own expectations with her surreal short, Little Runmo. It's about a little fucking green guy who's in a video game, who then gets caught up in a more secret, darker layer of it. Kind of feels familiar. But this video went bigger than her other content. It went absolutely gangbusters, hitting over 30 million views. It gained a huge fan base. People were making art of it, talking about it. Just by accident, I discovered this. Someone made a fan game of the fake game that she made in her head. And it looks kind of solid though. This movement's kind of crazy. Outside of people praising it, the community really wanted to decipher what it meant. And I mean, I get it. It's the dark layer, cute layer. There at least got to be a secret commentary on genocide involved, which I think is even funnier to consider when you realize in an interview, Gooseworx revealed there was no deeper meaning to Little Runmo.
The more I like design the characters and stuff, I'm just like, this doesn't need a moral. This can just be fun and weird.
Which I think is pretty crazy to think about. It's the classic, the curtains were blue type beat. Now, all this is well and good, but it turns out Little Runmo's success absolutely terrified. See, that same interview was done in 2021 by Daft Pina, who I never in a million years would think I would be quoting.
I think it was the popularity of Little Runmo was terrifying me, because I wasn't expecting it to be like this big thing, and it really became this huge thing. And the fear of following that up really started setting in.
To the point where she made a palette cleanser project because the pressure of following up Little Runmo was just too much. Expectation was big, and she cared about what people thought of what she made. This was more in context to her talking about her creative process and getting help from others, but she said, I don't want to disappoint the people who are working with me by being a horrible project leader, and I also don't want to disappoint people who like my work. She doesn't want to let people down, which is a sentiment I totally get. But apparently things paid off because Little Runmo itself did lead to something even bigger. We got the studio who makes the amazing Digital Circus, Glitch, to actually find Gooseworx was Little Runmo. Glitch's development producer Jasmine Yang said it was funny, a little dark, and definitely very weird, like nothing we had seen. And they wanted Gooseworx to pitch them a show. And despite all her anxiety, out of the 3 ideas she pitched, one of them became what we saw today. And that's when the amazing Digital Circus came to be. But unfortunately, like we talked about earlier, what also came to be with it was a lot of weird fucking shit in the fandom. In October of 2023, even before the pilot came out, Amazing Digital Circus was already kind of popping. And of course, fans were already shipping, simply based off of character designs and vibes alone. It's crazy because the show ain't even out yet. Now, a common thing we're gonna see here is Goose is very involved in the community. She's always interacting with fans to some degree on Twitter, Tumblr, Reddit. Now, one day before the launch of all this, Gooseworx tweets, there's a part of me that's terrified to interact with any Digital Circus shipping art at the risk of people thinking a like from me means it's canon. And then she follows it up by saying, so I'm just putting it out there. There's no romance in this show and no pairings are canon. I just likey the drawings. But that doesn't stop the community. As based off our little teaser, shipping drama breaks out. Like much a social media show drama, people start shutting down insulting other fans' art because of their ships. and kind of using Gooseworx words as a kind of gotcha. So a month later, Goose felt the need to retaliate. Reminder that I think anyone can ship whatever from the Amazing Digital Circus characters they want. And if someone comes at you saying, Goose said she hates when people draw this, they're just making shit up. The number of times I've seen people misquote me as a means of policing art is insane. Why do you love fighting so much? Are you stupid? Just because I personally don't give a shit about romance doesn't mean I'm suddenly in favor of art policing people for having fun. Chill out, be kind, and shut up, dumbass. And of course, after that statement, everyone stopped. Obviously, that's a lie. Leading Gooseworx to tweeting in January 2024, another mini rant. Reminder that there's not and was never going to be any romance in Digital Circus. That's just not the type of show I'm interested in making. However, you're still allowed to ship whatever you want. For the love of God, stop finding excuses to attack each other. So Goose clearly saw what was happening. She even followed it up with a drawing of her character with the angry eyebrows, just in case anyone took what she said and skewed it like she was getting at before. But obviously, this wouldn't fix. See, as the show continues to drop, it only gets more popular. And when things start to get popular on the internet, something that often becomes of it is its transformation into slop or porn slop, usually porn slop. These things typically become the target of content farms. Now, you probably heard of these before. Channels that mass produce low effort videos at an extreme pace, which are basically designed to game the algorithm and bait clicks.
I just got lost in thought. I'm into football.
Really? Did you watch the latest game?
You watch football too?
And those clicks are typically from kids. A thing that might come to mind is ElsaGate, where a bunch of Spider-Man Elsas were running around doing some shit that would get this video taken down, and yet those videos weren't, but whatever. Well, this here is PomniGate.
Poor Jax. This carrot turned out to be too much for me.
It becomes a bit of a scourge on the community. Easily reproduced content that I can really only describe as looks and sounds like poop from a butt. Examples like Lanky Box, Horn Stromp, and X Studios. Sounds like some bad shit coming out of there. But even worse, at times, these contents include sexual situations, which, look, I love Not Safe for Work as much as the next dude making videos on the internet, but not when it's thinly veiled to show to kids. Now Goose has commented on it herself. Her first reaction being in October 2023. Oh no, the Content Farm channel. The urge to turn this show into even more of a miserable art house film is at an all-time high. In fact, the shit got so bad, it got addressed in the Amazing Digital Circus. In a proper promo on the video, Pomni Wake Up, It's Time to Go on an Adventure, as a bit where Kane shows Pomni censored versions of the thumbnails from the Content Farm channels, and she reasonably freaks the f out.
Take a look.
What the f am I looking at?
The consequences of our actions.
Which really solidifies that the show knew that this type of stuff was inevitable. Now, to be clear, this video is about the fandom, and this isn't the fandom's fault. The people making Pomni se sienta en la cara de Jax, aka Pomni sits on Jax's face, probably aren't fans of the show. They're a fan of money. But unfortunately, the fandom did get weird about it in not a way you'd expect. See, some fans engaged with the Content Farm content, which, to be fair, is gonna happen. That's the point of it. If you're a really big fan of the show, you're looking to swallow as much of it as possible, even if that thing is slop. But apparently, the occasional content slop character even started to get some clout too. Specifically, I feel so stupid talking about that. Jack's female twin from this video, and allegedly people started drawing and obsessing over characters like this. And it got so bad that Gooseworx made a comment on it. In a now deleted tweet, she said, I don't mean to be a buzzkill, but don't you guys think drawing / obsessing over this character is just giving these Content Farm channels what they want? Like, I'd be fine with it if they came from a fan and not a Content Farm video, but it very much comes from a Content Farm video. Now, some of the fans pushed back on this, with someone replying, people are kind of just having fun, critiquing Gooseworx. And she replies with a very reasonable response, if it was designed by a fan, I'd have no problem with it. But again, I feel like this was not made by a fan. And I know it got under her skin even more because she made a little comic about it here, which is basically that whole interaction again and her being pissed off about it, which is fair. You think it would end there, but there's more on this, which is, as I'm going through this, I'm like, damn, when does it stop? Others in the fandom confronted her dislike of content farms for being anti-Rule 34 to the point that, again, she had to clarify on Twitter. So, like, why do people think I'm disgusted and horrified by sex in Rule 34 again? Because I think content farm videos are cringe? Again, y'all, let's not forget the penis factory tweet. This is clearly not the case. I don't know. I think people can do whatever they want as long as they keep it within the appropriate circles. I don't really think the first page of YouTube search results is appropriate circle. And I agree. I don't really want to see that here. But oh no, Kurt, it can't get any worse than that. It can. Some even blamed her for the content farms, which also prompted her to make a response on Tumblr where she wrote, "I've seen people blame me for the content farm videos, saying I should have stopped them, as if I'm not the one feeling the most pained and disgraced by their existence." In fact, she said she talked to Glitch about it multiple times, and the response was basically nothing will be enough to stop them, which again makes sense. If there's still Spider-Man Elsa shit happening right now with Disney money, of course Glitch, which is essentially two Australian guys, they're not gonna be able to do anything. I can be your scapegoat if you want, but it's not going to change anything. When all is said and done, I hope at the very least Digital Circus can be a somewhat enjoyable show in a vacuum. My job is to write and direct a show. That's what I'm going to focus my efforts on. Damn, this just keep going. Outside of that, the fandom parasocialness got very, very intense, especially for one particular character, Jax, the kind of asshole dickhead bunny that I was a fan of earlier, played by Michael Kovac, who's been in a lot of other indie animation stuff before. And apparently, there's been a few instances where Kovac has felt a need to take a step away from the fandom and distance himself because of interactions with the fans. One particular instance was during a stream. Sometimes the cast would come together and play a game, often as their characters. And one day they were playing Repo, but apparently this time around, Kovac wasn't there. So naturally, fans harassed the other cast members about it. In fact, one of the cast members, Marissa Lenti, the voice of Gangle, replied in a comment saying, "Hey, so it's kind of rude to comment asking for specific actors to be on these streams over one of the people who actually was here. Sorry your favorite member of the cast isn't here, but the people who are here are taking time out of their busy schedules to do more fun streams for you guys. Please be polite." Which I'm like, damn, I would be a little salty too. And of course, Kovac got word of this, and he tweeted, "Just heard that fans are being very annoying to the amazing Digital Circus cast playing Repo because I wasn't there. Can't always be present for live streams and have actively taken a step back due to fans being too parasocial and uncomfortable. Respect our boundaries and behave." Which I think is telling about how bad shit in this fandom could go. But he also brings up something that I think is very important. In a follow-up tweet, he says, "Please don't use this as an opportunity to hate the fandom. This is a very small but very loud and vocal minority being referenced here, mostly teenagers and children who aren't totally self-aware. I love the fandom overall and still want to entertain everyone." I think that's a great point. And a thing that can be acknowledged with all these fandoms is that what's considered toxic isn't the fandom as a whole. What's considered toxic are a few small but loud instances of the fandom. And people have just taken the term one rotten apple ruins the bunch and kind of made it the status quo in these types of situations. But Michael really wanted to remind everyone that wasn't the case. But that still wouldn't stop the perception that all these niggas were crazy, mostly because of doxing. At one point in episode 7, apparently there were some IRL flashbacks of Jax was having a realistic depiction of a panic attack. And in true fashion, people went investigating these shots. Now, as an outsider, I can't necessarily blame these people. This kind of behavior was normalized and popularized by FNAF. But it did get a little too weird when people were posting IRL coordinates and locations of these spots, which was just some nigga's house. Like, oh, Jax lives in the suburbs of Minnesota. Like, in fact, some people actually went to the neighborhood and asked around. Now, granted, I've read the post, and this person seems to be apologetically doing it, if this is real. But still, like, bro, come on. Now, some people brought this to Gooseworx' attention on Blue Sky, and she condemned it immediately, because that was not the intention of the silly I like it to draw cartoon show. But the thing, in my personal opinion, that is even crazier than the doxing, some folks would proceed to put blame on her for the doxing, which again, as an outsider, I guess I can see both sides too, and she knows her fandom, and this type of behavior is very normalized. But she responds with something I think was very reasonable. Stop normalizing this behavior and giving scapegoats to people to doing this. Maybe it was naive of her to think this, but she wants to stop normalizing this behavior. And honestly, there's like more of this shit, but like this is becoming the whole video. The death threats over Tumblr asks. There's one where she said, would Ragatha make out with me? And she gave like a joke answer because she does that. Ragatha would only make out with Sam tries her best on Twitter, which led to fans apparently taking it seriously, intending death threats to her friend Sam. She responds with, if your takeaway from this is to send death threats to my friend and not, oh, that's an obvious joke, then some of you guys aren't old enough to be watching cartoons, I swear to God. I mean, people were even sending death threats over opinions that were also getting on Goose's radar. So on TikTok, got a death threat because they thought Gangle was annoying. And Gooseworx also caught one of that, saying, but I actually kind of don't think you should threaten someone's life over their opinions on a cartoon character. Confirming that, yeah, someone on TikTok got death threats because they thought Gangle was annoying. And this becomes like a common thread throughout her whole online existence. You can tell it gets on her fucking nerves. People sure do take these dumb little internet cartoons seriously, and they should. They're the most important thing in the world. In fact, you should kill someone over one tonight. Despite all these things, she has remained strong and present on social media because she wants this to last. It's something she said even before the pilot dropped. Biggest thing I want this fandom not to do is get toxic and volatile towards each other over dumb reasons. It is just a silly internet cartoon after all. I've come to remind you all not to harass or bully anybody under the guise of defending me. I'm tough. I can handle it. Let's try and keep things as toxicity free as we can. I'm going to make attempts to wrangle this fan base until I die. She was willing to keep going with it, blow for blow with everything. She still stayed engaged until a post drops. Hey, so it's Future Kurt, and I'm gonna pause right here because this moment marks when I started paying attention to this whole thing. Meaning when I was writing this video, this was happening currently. Meaning to me, this was the final incident that leads to our conclusion. Look at the runtime. That is no longer happening, and you will see why later. Okay. So let's switch to POV. To me, it's February 21st and I'm scrolling through my feed and I'm seeing a ton of posts about the Amazing Digital Circus and a little bit more than the usual ones that leak onto my shit. There's something a lot bigger going on. Apparently Gooseworx had deleted her Reddit account. Why? Because of fan toxicity and bullying. And if you take a look at any of these posts or videos, they explain the timeline itself. Gooseworx apparently likes hopping onto live streams and hanging out with their friends. And during one of these live streams, she said something that people didn't like.
I never expected one of the things that people would get mad at me for would be making the show focus on the two main characters. I was like, oh, I didn't even know you could get mad about that. Like building up the show to be about Pomni and Jax. It's like, oh, people are actually really upset about that. I'm sorry.
Basically that Pomni, the clown girl, and Jax, the bunny dude, were the main characters of the series. Which, again, as just a guy, I didn't really understand what this really meant, but apparently people were really upset at this comment to a level of hate. And it came in the form of a very long-winded Reddit post to the point where it caused Gooseworx to crash out on social media. Now, as we point out, she's gotten sassy from time to time, but never a proper, like, crash out. Saying stuff like, I have considered never touching this franchise. And posting on other sites stuff like, I'm so stressed all the time. I want to feel creative passion again. I'm trying my hardest to make this show good. I'm sorry about anything I've said on streams. I really don't want to hurt anyone. Even citing herself that she had a breakdown. And everyone is talking about this. Like, the incident is getting so big that other creators in the animation space are weighing in. Matt Braley, the creator of Disney show called Amphibia, quote tweets responding to the incident, sharing his own experience, saying, on a YouTube interview, I casually suggested that the Amphibia trio weren't really the greatest friends and looked down on another sometimes. It's the only time I got hate mail, people calling me a fucking moron and that I didn't know my own characters. I just shut up after that. In fact, another indie animation creator who we brought up briefly, again, I am not gonna touch that video. I don't. Goes on a whole tirade on Blue Sky. I go back and forth about shutting up forever about dumb shit said online and actively wishing I could virtually punch people in the throat for the nasty shit they say to creators online. LOL. Some of y'all do not deserve the grace creators are expected to give you, for real. She then posts like 7 posts related to the incident. Clearly this is something she is very passionate about. And if other showrunners saying things wasn't enough, the show itself says something. Glitch Productions, the ones producing the show, even drop a statement, which is not a thing that happened. Like, Cartoon Network isn't making tweets over Steven Universe incidents, and there was definitely some incidents that could give a reason for one. This was a big deal, to the point that there's even a hashtag trending, hashtag love for Gooseworx. Now, we all watched the same 30 minutes that I just made. Goose has dealt with this type of stuff before. You would figure to much worse degrees. And this, not the other stuff, this is what causes her to crash out? This shit gotta be crazy. So I peeped the post in question, titled, "The problem isn't Pomni and Jax, it's the sudden exclusion of Ragatha." And I read that whole thing. And bro, let me tell you, compared to the stuff we talked about, this post is nothing. Like, nothing. In fact, not even comparable if you could compare a generally well-worded critique to posting someone's whole fucking address online. Essentially, it was a response to Gooseworx' statement in the stream. It argues that the issue isn't fans being upset about Pomni and Jax being main characters, it's that the show spent 5 episodes building a storyline between Pomni and Ragatha, and then resolved that entire arc off-screen in episode 7. The poster basically felt that it was a letdown, given how much time the show invested in setting it up. They acknowledged the show still had 2 episodes left, but argued it's fair to criticize the writing for not following through on something it deliberately set up. Now, I have no horse in this race. In real talk, even if I did, I don't think it would know where to fucking go either, to be honest. Whether this opinion is right or wrong actually doesn't matter a single bit. What matters is how it was said. Again, reading it, this post makes a very respectful argument that doesn't feel toxic. It's just critical. In fact, dare I say, out of all the people to critique something on the internet, is probably in the top 10th percentile of not being an asshole, which is very, very hard, especially for a Reddit account. This was the toxicity everyone was talking about that caused a Reddit deleting crash out? There had to be more, right? Well, there was. Now, you go through the comments, there's plenty on this post. And for the most part, they're all also pretty tame. There's other people critiquing the critique or agreeing on what. There was one comment that stood out. Honestly, another pretty chill question just upon reading it. Do people really think Ragatha is not gonna get any development in the final episode? The reason this is notable is not what was said, but who said it. Gooseworx herself. She know to get involved. Now the OP replies, and upon reading it, he definitely doesn't know who he's talking to. He starts it out by saying Gooseworx, but more in the state of like, that is a person, not you are Gooseworx. Now his reply was a bit more pointed, but overall still nothing toxic. Again, if he's right or wrong, whatever, the presentation of the critique was fine. Some discussion after that followed with other users, but that was the meat and potatoes of it. I even looked for some toxicity in this thread, which I couldn't really find, which is kind of crazy because doing the research for the rest of this vid has been immensely easy. So, boom. Not too long after that, Goose deletes her Reddit account, which was then followed by the various crash out posts. So, what the fuck is going on? If this situation was basically a nothing burger, why did Goose delete her account? Again, she's dealt with worse. Was it just criticism? Well, yeah, but with a heavy, heavy asterisk. Again, Goose has dealt with plenty criticism before. In fact, again, she's pointed out in other tweets. Well, the next day, Goose gave some more insight on this. Sorry for the breakdown earlier. Honestly, I haven't been behaving very professionally on social media, so I think I need to step back from it and reevaluate my priorities. She follows up with saying, to clarify, this isn't really about criticism. You should be able to criticize the show without feeling guilty. I had a lot building up in my mind, combined with intense burnout and pressure to make the finale perfect. And then I'm the one who snapped, so I should reflect. To reiterate, I was not harassed off Reddit. I had a breakdown from other stuff that had been building up over the past few months. The ending of the show isn't changing. It's still gonna play out exactly how it was planned to from the beginning. I'm fine, serious. She even shot down the support hashtags. I kind of don't want Appreciation Week for publicly crashing out, not gonna lie. Makes me a bit uncomfortable. So the situation wasn't harassment. Goose acknowledges it wasn't harassment. Now, it might sound small of her to crash out over some critiques, but I get it. The thing that always hit Goose the hardest, at least from an outsider perspective, wasn't the toxicity. It was the weight of people connecting with her story and the expectations that came with that. And she said it again in that Daft Pina interview. It was a secondary point, but it was still there.
I don't want to disappoint the people who are working with me by being a horrible project leader, and I also don't want to disappoint like people who like my work, and then when I hire people, they're like, it's different now. It was better when you made it by yourself, and I'm like,
And it's a thing that clearly stuck with her. Then you add how huge this thing has become, bigger than itself, the stress of production, and probably whatever other things are happening in her life that we don't even know about because we're just looking from the outside in. I don't know, I feel like we gotta remember humans, even when receiving respectful critique, aren't meant to interpret judgment on that wide of a scale, especially when they weren't expecting to. In fact, I honestly think this was an overdue breaking point. Already proved that people who consume the stories are gonna connect with the media and feel a way about differing opinions. Well, the creator of the show probably connects to it more than any fan could. An attack on it feels like an attack on them. It seems open and shut when you say it, but in your head, it's nothing you can expect a person to just easily understand and move past. And it leads to this. Again, I'm just making guesses here, but I feel like that hit harder than any dumb death threat could. The weight of judgment and expectation from the now many people she didn't even anticipate. She even said it herself during the breakdown. I'm trying my hardest to make this show good. I'm sorry about anything I've said on stream. I really don't want to hurt anyone. In the moment, she's apologizing to the people she's afraid of disappointing. But it seems like outlets and fans saw these posts and believed she'd received some substantial backlash over comments about the show. Like actual backlash. Again, she's dealt with people giving death threats to others over not liking Gangle. Like, this wouldn't be too big of a surprise. So to make her delete her account, the backlash theoretically had to be crazy. So people rallied to support her on social media. That's where you see the videos, the posts, and the hashtags. And these fans are calling out the show's critics as whiny and entitled. Critics who either didn't exist, or if they did, they weren't the cause of this. And again, Goose tried to set the record straight, but over all this noise, unless you're really listening, nobody could hear her. But again, honestly, you can't blame them either. Why would they listen? The narrative makes sense. The Amazing Digital Circus has a notoriously toxic fandom. I just spent however long documenting exactly how toxic that shit was. So when the creator crashes out, of course it was the fans. So any word of a critique, even without people reading it, can it automatically filed under entitled fan being toxic. Not to say there is an entitlement in this fan base, but ironically enough, the now most known source of entitlement from this fan base wasn't entitlement at all. Hi, pause, future Kurt here. That was where this was supposed to end, because at the time that's what all was happening. You can tell the little moral thing I was doing there. For a community that seemed as toxic as the Amazing Digital Circus, the thing that affected Goose the most was thought to be toxicity because of the reputation of the community, but in reality was the weight of expectation. But then something else happened. Okay, see, this was the most known source of entitlement from this fan base. That wasn't entitlement until April 10th. So as of recording this video today, not the previous sections, all that was done days and days and days ago. A Digital Circus is coming up on its finale, the big finale of the story that swept all these people off their feet and maybe awakened some others to some things they didn't know they liked. And finally, in a tweet, Glitch Productions drops the highly anticipated trailer for the final episode. And in it is something that pisses a lot of people off. Apparently, the last act will be dropping on YouTube June 19th, but it was also to hit theaters, actual theaters, through a company called Fathom Entertainment, which, if you didn't know, is basically the go-to for limited theatrical runs. Run by MAC and Cinemark and Regal, and basically specialized in event screenings, so stuff like anime films, concert movies, classic releases. The Amazing Digital Circus last act will be in theaters June 4th through the 7th, 2 weeks early, and only in the US, Latin America, Japan, and Canadian theaters, with the free YouTube release following up on June 19th. Glitch also clarifies that fans who want to see it should kindly request it at their local theaters if it's not available for them. Now again, to me, this didn't feel that deep, but not to everyone else, as the internet splits in half immediately. So looking at this, there were two general camps of this. The Good for Glitch camp and the Glitch Camp. The Glitch Camp is saying two things. One, you promised that the Amazing Digital Circus would always be free and YouTube first. The show was born on YouTube, it built its audience on accessibility, and suddenly the finale is behind a paywall of sorts. And said paywall isn't even available to everybody. It's in select theaters through Fathom, which then alienates a lot of the other audiences around the world. And even if you are in one of those countries, it's not every theater. Again, select locations. And even then, some fans just don't have the means to go to a theater, period. And Glitch's reply to tell people to request it at their local theaters doesn't help either, because asking fans to basically cold contact their local cinema to air something is a bit weird of an ask on the basis of the view. That's a lot, but there's another thing. Second, even if the theater thing wasn't a big issue, the 2-week wait is. In the current internet age, it's almost impossible not to get spoiled, so the story is most likely cooked for you before you go watch it for free. It would be different if it was a day or two early, or even if audiences had known this was coming. Because these people have felt out of nowhere. And despite intention, feels like just a monetization move, with the front of this will help the industry when they're really just trying to monetize their biggest IP, framing it as a noble cause. They rather than be straight up about wanting to make money, and overall it felt like a broken promise. Again, that's one side. And then there's the good for Glitch Camp, which is basically saying, the Glitch Camp. So this one is a bit more of a pushback on that criticism, saying the episode is still free and nobody's being charged who doesn't want to be. And you just have to wait 2 weeks. It's not that hard to avoid spoilers, and even if you can't, it's not the end of the world. One very adamant person in the creator space, Mary Dog, posted, Amazing Digital Circus fans are one of the most well-served fandoms I've ever seen. Free global YouTube release for every episode is something most fandoms could ever dream of. Could they have dropped it on YouTube? Yes, but that would have been an intense loss in revenue, and Glitch has been giving the show away for free for 3 years. It's always support the indie animation until it requires the smallest inconvenience from the audience. Besides, Glitch is indie. They're not Disney. They can't just snap their fingers and get the global distribution to every country. People are excited are calling critics entitled, and people who are upset are calling supporters bootlickers, essentially. And there comes an insanely intense back and forth with a lot of colorfully worded posts. In fact, the situation got so hot that Glitch's CEO had to make their second public statement related to the Amazing Digital Circus thing in the span of a couple months, and explaining their reasoning, saying that this would be big for the indie space. And if they could have shrunk the time span, they would have. But theaters initially demanded a full month of exclusivity that he actually negotiated down to 2 weeks. Now, that didn't necessarily end things, but overall, a lot of detractors got quieter. Hi, Future Kurt here again. And that was then supposed to be the end of the video. But then something else happened. And that's where we are now. So Future Kurt is now present Kurt. I'm taking over from here. So, all right, so a little bit earlier, I talked about Michael Kovac, the voice of Jack, and his incidents with the community, which was typically the audience being weird and him being upset about it. Well, right now, the shoe might have been on the other foot. Okay, so April 2026, a particular clip from a 2019 live streaming services. Now, I'm just gonna play the clip itself as it's presented.
God damn it! Caitlin, why?
How could I not?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh, this matchup is so good!
Thank you.
So long, nigga.
Now, a lot of people immediately had some issue with this, especially that last line, and you just hopped on this immediately, pointing out this is I'm not touching you racism, and how it's weird they're all laughing so hard at this not funny joke, and remarking on how this kind of humor against black people is tiring in the space. But this criticism wasn't kept to just Michael, as apparently Goose was involved as well, as it seems she was in the stream chat when this moment happened, and later on made it a related joke saying nega angel. Now this clip gets spread around with no context for a while, so instead let me drop the full context for you. So as we mentioned earlier, Ashley Nichols, the voice of Zupo, has a YouTube channel where she occasionally streams with her friends, and ironically is now once again going to be the source of another one of my research bullet points. Anyways, it's her birthday and she's hosting a birthday stream, and during the stream a chatter with the word nega, that's N-E-G-A, in their name. Also, I'm assuming this as I could not find the chatter in the replay, but I could also just be blind. Sends a message, "Notice me, senpai," and Ashley reads it out loud.
Notice me, senpai.
Yeah.
Aaron, sure, nigga. We notice you. Chur mega?
Now, everyone on the stream doesn't say anything, but the vibe shifts. You can feel it in the air. It's a classic, as I like to call it, a post-white person saying the N-word silent. But I mean, for good reason. That was a pretty nigga sounding nega right there. Like, damn. Now, while the crew is kind of quiet about it, the chat obviously immediately catches it. And then Michael, this isn't the incident by the way, just breaks the ice by pointing out one of the comments.
Hey, sprinkle cake. That's what I thought was said too.
There is now a second post-white person saying the N-word silence. Then Michael speaks again, addressing comments saying,
She did not. It just sounded like it.
and then it gets addressed properly.
Did it? I said nega, you fucking idiot.
It sounded like another word.
No. Well,
Like,
if you guys
I
heard
deadass
something
thought
else.
you said it. I was like, what? Person with the shortest word dies.
And also a little bit later, it gets joked about again.
Oh yeah.
Somebody typed, Ashley beats her dog and is a racist.
Oh my god, you idiots.
To
be
she degrades her
absolutely
fans, calling them
clear.
idiots.
To be absolutely clear, I said nega, N-E-G-A, like negative. Which,
Like Eggman nega.
yeah, we're just digging the hole deeper.
And that's a wrap on that, for now at least. Now that game ends and they start the next one, TKO. As you know, it's where people compete in a bracket-style tournament by combining drawings with catchphrases. Now during the first round, one of the matchups gets thrown up. Hello Daddy versus Nega. And this is basically where the clip is. Well, what does Gooseworx come in? Well, give me a second. As we said earlier, Goose had been watching the stream. She'd been in the chat a few times, nothing related to the incident or anything, at least not yet. So a few more shirts go by and another matchup shows up on screen. One of them being Angel from Has Been Hotel, the other character of Michael voice, with a green outline. And they pointed out,
Is that Angel?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know there's white, right?
and then Goose replies to this in chat, that's Nega Angel. I actually see this message in comments.
Goose, I really want to read the message you just sent, but I don't want to get in trouble again.
Then Michael reads it.
Hold on, let me see the message. Hold on, I'll read it. That's Nega Angel. I'll take the blunt of it for you, dearie.
Dearie, oh, thank you, honey.
That is the full context. So as this stuff starts buzzing, Kovac makes a tweet. I've just been made aware of this. This is an absolutely insensitive joke. Earlier in the stream, we heard Ashley read out a username that contained the word nega, short for negative, and all of us, including chat, freaked out because we misheard what was said. Once the misunderstanding was cleared, we poked fun at the absurdity of it. However, the joke relies on the fact that it's teetering on racism, which ultimately is no different than making a legitimate racist joke. I apologize for any harm this has caused. Racism is never okay, and we should always try to be kind and lift each other up. Ashley then also follows up with a tweet essentially co-opting what Michael said. However, that's not what's really front and center. People are also waiting for Gooseworx to say something. I guess because they're prominent voice actors in her currently running show, but also because she kind of participated, was also there. And she ain't saying nothing. In fact, she's tweeting pretty normally, like posting her usual memes and whatnot, and this is going for days. But people are starting to tag her and Glitch directly asking for her to address it. And then things escalate. YouTuber Plain Rock 124 uploads a clip of him at Level Up Expo in Vegas where he I'm gonna just play a clip.
Yo, it's my nigga. What's up, nigga?
Yeah. And you guys like speak up about the corny non-black in your fan base getting a little too brave, yelling racial slurs in public now. Your silence regarding the anti-blackness currently being enabled in your community irks me. It's getting dangerous. Now for the third time, Glitch makes a statement about something related to the Amazing Digital Circus, saying, we were made aware of a horrific and hateful behavior from a specific individual around our Glitch booth today. We've contacted level up staff to take action and have them removed and permanently banned. We've also told our staff not to serve her. Others featured in that video or anyone seen exhibiting any behavior that would make members of our community feel unsafe or unwanted. These idiots are not representative of our community and fans, and we want to make any Glitch event as safe as possible for all. We condemn absolutely any hateful, discriminatory, or dumb f***wit behavior. Be kind to each other, and if you can't, then piss off. We don't want you here. A lot of people appreciated this, but what they were still waiting for was Goose's thoughts. Glitch CEO begging on his hands and knees for Goose to at least retweet the Glitch statement instead of continuing to stay silent. And about 11 hours later, her silence gets broken. I feel like you should say if you think you're on my side by saying genuine, racist, hateful things to black people in the fandom, it is my personal belief that you should shoot yourself in the head with a gun. Now, this tweet split people. On one side, of course, people are cool with what she said. She condemned racism, which is what everyone asked, like very aggressively. That's all you could ask of her. And besides, she didn't even say the word. She was in the chat. It's like a guilt by association type deal. But on the other side, people are furious. They're saying she posted for 4 days while black fans were getting harassed, and now she shows up with this. Now, that was the situation presented as straight as I can. Now, for this one, if y'all didn't know, I'm something of a nega myself, so I feel like I'd be remiss to not give my personal take on it. Okay, first, some disclaimers. I'm not an expert, nor am I an authority on the subject of black people. I'm just a black dude who's on the internet, and really that's my only qualifier to have a take on this. I mean, I'm not even really in the fan. There's probably gonna be many better worded takes on this situation that aren't from the guy who RP'd with a ChatGPT girlfriend for a video. Also, just in case, I feel like this goes without saying, not all black people are gonna look at this the same way. My opinion isn't law, it's just what I think, okay? All right, cool. All right, the clip. With context, was the joke insensitive? Yeah. Yeah. Now, to be clear, I've got no issue with the initial situation. Them reading nega and laughing about it, like that came to me as a genuine mistake. But bro, she let that thing sing. Like, god damn. So the fact that they would reflect on that moment, I get it. All right, I get that. In fact, I don't even think it was that crazy that they put on the shirt. In context, it makes sense. To me, it comes off as them just bringing back up a bit because of the moment to get points for the game. I mean, again, it's Jackbox. You get the most points from your internal jokes. An actual joke is never going to do well in Jackbox if you ever play. To me, the use of the shirt was because the moment was so prominent, which would also explain the reactions. Okay, sure. Then we have the things that were actually said.
So long, nigga.
Yeah, so that's not cool. Crazy look. All right, at this point here, to me, this is now less about the moment and more about the word just being a replacement for the N-word that can be used. Now look, y'all know me, I'm actually pretty chill with a race joke. I get that, but I feel like there's a line between tasteful and an excuse to say nigga. Like, the humor at this point is just that it sounds like the N-word. That's the whole joke. And in this context, it ain't even funny. The bit is just ha ha ha, so long, nigga. Like, what? Which to me, and probably some of the other black people who saw this, is usually telling of the person who does it, whether racist or not or whatever. Being the white guy to find an excuse to say for whatever reason is not like my kind of guy. But again, me personally, I'm not up in arms, but I get why people would be. It's kind of weird. Goldberg's apology to me was actually pretty well done. He noted perfectly what it was and took accountability. Again, I didn't really hate him for it in the first place, but I appreciated the acknowledgement. Now, for the Gooseworx thing. Also kind of wild. Once again, the context of the use to me was less about the moment and more about the replacement. I'll say it. It was more clever use than Michael's,
You know
so
it's white,
you get
right?
points there, Goose,
Shut
I guess.
up.
But at the end of the day, am I pissed? I don't know, not particularly. To me, it's just weird behavior that, again, might be telling of her character as a white woman. But to me, it didn't really impact my take on the show or anything. And it's worth noting, a lot of people got this out of context, which just sounds like a bunch of white people cackling at the word nega, which is not ideal as a person of color and understandably could have facilitated these reactions. But there is a thing that actually got me to feel away. And this is the part where I think Goose actually fumbled. Not because of what she did in 2019, because of what she said in 2026. See, the unfortunate thing about when you're in these situations is that when things get serious like this, how you word things really, really matters. And that sucks, but it's true. And her response about that kid did not feel great to me. I could be tripping, but here's why. Specifically here, genuine racist, hateful things. Again, it could all be semantics. I'm just telling you what comes to heart. Since she never addressed the original situation, and this was directly related to it, both are taken into consideration for this reply. Whether she meant it or not, to me, this statement alludes to me that she's drawing a line between what the fans are doing, which to her was genuine racism, and what she and the VAs did, which by contrast would be, well, not genuine racism. I made a joke related to it, but I'm not actually racist, so it's fine. And there is some truth to that. Like, I'm sure the intent here was to condemn racism, and she does it. But this little line for me gives an impression of no responsibility over the actual kind of odd stuff that happened on stream, which yes, was light, especially in comparison, but still understandably might have left a weird taste in people's mouths. When people are asking you to take accountability and your response comes off as, no, I wasn't really being racist, it kind of minimizes the original situation. Like, a simple fix to me could have been, yeah, we're tweaking on stream and pushed the joke a little too far. Sorry. And also, this action by this other person who thinks he's on my side is awful. Fuck that guy. I just acknowledge the gray and condemn the black and white. Now I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt that she did feel away, and then when posting this, it was just a bit of a wording issue because she's not the type to be very fluent with her words in tweets. But for anyone else not giving her the benefit of the doubt, I don't think you can blame them. Okay? All right. That's enough of my take. Now, in general, there's clearly some nuance to this situation, and all in all, it's a bit of a gray area. But the thing is, the internet doesn't do fucking gray. So in response to this incident, people start digging into Gooseworx's past. The usual way these things go, honestly. And things start coming out. Tweet from 2022 where she admitted to making edgy racist jokes among her friends. Tweets where it's framed that she hates women, some incest tweets, a bunch of other stuff gets thrown into the pile. It gets to the point where she's trending for it. And it gets about as ugly as you'd expect, with people wishing death on her, some subtle, some not. Now, whether the stuff that was brought up from the tweets is legitimate or not, some or any of it, I'm gonna leave for y'all to decide. Video is long enough and I am very tired, especially after having to have read all that. Oh my God. But even on the deepest, what I would consider most acceptable end of disliking her for doing all this, I feel like the reaction was a little disproportionate. You know, sides have been created and they run very deep. And how deep they go is about to be put on full display. May 19th, 2026. So the time has passed, and at this point, things are looking up for Goose and Glitch. 2Filter and Fathom report the amazing digital circus, The Last Act, has gotten $7.5 million in pre-sales. And at that point, is now in 2,100 theaters in the US and 5,000 across 90 countries. But things haven't been perfect, per se. A week or so earlier, Glitch unilaterally terminated their distribution contract with the Korean distributor SBMN and canceled the Korean theatrical release entirely. So why fuck the whole of Korea? Because of potential leaks. Apparently, Korea's pre-screening rating process required sending the original video files to a ratings board in advance. And Glitch was worried that this would cause a potential place for a leak to happen. The Korean distributor, in fact, was obviously pissed. They even filed an injunction with the Seoul Central District Courts over the unilateral contract termination. But Glitch was serious. They really didn't want this to leak because it would trivialize this whole process they've been going through. Not to mention, Goose herself, as we've established, really cares about the final episode, despite everything she's putting in all this work. In fact, doing extra work on it in the final stretch, just so it's just what she wants. So, all Korean releases were suspended. Anyways, the film then leaked in Brazil. 2 weeks before the premiere, a full cut of the Brazilian Portuguese dub gets uploaded online and it immediately goes everywhere. Now, as this news is coming out, it comes back to Gooseworx via Blue Sky. Post says, I've seen on Twitter that they're leaking the movie. I don't know if it's real. Goose replies, I haven't seen what the leaks even are, but I'm gonna guess probably not. But then someone else confirms, Goose, I think they're real. They're getting copyrighted. Goose then replies, who cares? Now, if you're like me, this reads probably is just exhaustion. Girl's been in the gulag for God knows how long. The fandom is ripping her and itself apart, and now the project's leaked. Not to mention she's also getting intense criticism from the people who saw the leak and weren't fucking with the finale. I personally feel like she probably hit a point where she's like, what am I supposed to do? She can't unleak it. Really, who cares is kind of based, because caring hasn't really done her any favors this far. But a good chunk of people weren't like me and were pissed at her response. See, to this other chunk, this who cares read like she doesn't care about the show, doesn't care about the fans, doesn't care about the people who paid money for their tickets to see something that is now spoiled. And those sentiments are clear across social media. I don't know, maybe the people who spent money on a ticket to see it in theaters? I hope no one takes her as a showrunner ever again, good lord. Thankfully, there are people who jumped to her defense, but they also pointed out the complicated nature of the position she was in. Tried so hard to avoid this, even rejected Korea. You gotta be a special kind of stupid to not understand her apathy. If she responds with a joke, unprofessional. Seriously, damage control. Literally nothing. Pestered. She can't win. And the amazing digital circus and Gooseworx are now on the precipice of a problem that honestly never even had to happen. And it's chaos all around, leading the Goose to make one last post on Blue Sky. I know people are upset with my response, which is fine, but I kind of just wanted to make a cartoon, and it ended up being way more trouble than it's worth. I really just can't keep my heart in this thing anymore. It's gotten too much bigger than me, and I probably shouldn't be the figurehead of it. And this response resonated with a lot of people in many different ways, to such a point that this situation got even bigger than it's ever been. I mean, it's big enough that CNN is covering the theatrical release, but like big internet commentators like Moist Critical, who have no idea what's going on, are making full video deep dives on it. Now, as of now, the movie's had its run, and by the time you're watching this, it should be up on YouTube. And eventually, this whole thing will be forgotten. But I keep coming back to that tweet from June 2023, before the pilot even dropped, asking everyone to be a good fandom, knowing that like way back in the day, when things were simpler with Little Runmo, she already had a big opinion on what the audience thought of what she made. And if the success of that scared her, I can only imagine what she's been going through here. Look, I'm not here to tell you what to think of Goose, all right? I definitely don't think she's perfect. But what happened after that? The digging, the piling on, the death threats. I don't know. It felt like once she's in someone's bad graces in some form, anything she did was wrong. And I know that's gotta feel heavy, despite what I might think about it. At the end of the day, this was a person who wanted to make a silly cartoon about people trapped in a video game. And the thing she was most afraid of, the thing she literally warned people about before it even started, happened anyway. The show got bigger than her, and the people she made it for ended up being the ones who made it impossible to keep making. Now, whose fault that was, up for anyone to decide. But regardless, it's a tough situation to look back at.